Good evening, everybody. My name is Curtis Chambers. I'm with CLC Consulting. I'm a financial coach, and I'm just here to go over some things that we're going to, be revisiting for some and introducing to others. And then we're going to have our time to have Q&A as well as, do some things in class. So we can roll up our sleeves and get prepared to do some class/homework. I'm going to have Denisha man the chat for me, as well as interject anything that's topical, like the topics that she was mentioning earlier, for obvious reasons, where it seems where she deems fit. So without any further ado, we're just going to jump right on in here and let's discuss some credit repair and how things have changed recently. Some of this is going to be very familiar to you, but we like to set the foundation and make sure that that's straight so that nobody's left behind. What is credit? Credit is basically a contract or an agreement between the borrower and the lender with money to be repaid at a later date. And there's also typically interest is involved. So it's the cost of borrowing money when it comes to someone just trusting you, right? Borrowed money that can be used to purchase goods and services. In this case, a huge good is the home. We're going to purchase that home. We're leveraging someone else's money because we don't have $400,000 or $500,000 up front. So we want to be able to still use that, whether it's for personal to live in as your homestead or eventually as an investment tool and asset as well. Also, when it comes to credit, it can free up your cash for other purposes. There are people who may have $400,000 and don't want to give all of it to it. I think recently Beyonce and Jay bought a property and they did not pay it all up front. People that buy sports teams, they have sometimes the billions of dollars, but they leverage credit for different reasons because you want your cash to be freed up for other things. So it happens on a smaller scale as well as on a larger scale. Generally, it starts in small amounts, so as little as $50, $100, $200, and then it grows from there to some of the examples that I mentioned. I already see some things in the chat. I'll pause quickly before continuing on.
Nope, I answered everything in the chat so far.
So, different types of
interject. So in the chat, I did put a link, you guys. You can download. I'll email it tonight as well. It's kind of a handout, which is a summary of some of the things that Curtis is talking about today. The credit dispute letters that you guys are going to need, which we will go over tonight as well. And then a spreadsheet for you to track what you're doing, because I want you to track so you can see how you're improving or not improving over time so that we know what we need to do every month to move forward. Continue.
Absolutely. So what other types of credit? We just talked about a couple indirectly. Credit cards, that just allows you to buy something on time. Meaning I'm going to get it now and I pay it back over time. That was a term they used to use 50 years ago. Personal loans, that's a form of credit. We'll give you some money today, you'll pay it back. And again, with a little bit extra cost of doing business. Home mortgages and student loans. 3 out of the 4 are what's known as installment, and the other one is revolving. Revolving is the credit card because you can run it up, pay it down, run it right back up again. So that relationship can go on in perpetuity. Whereas when you finish paying off any of the other 3, it's done. That relationship is now over. You have to start again anew if you want to have a certain amount of money or access to it. But why? Why though? Does it really matter if I have good credit? Why do I need it? Cash is king. What I used to hear all the time. I can just buy things straight up with cold hard cash. Talk about why it matters, and we're going to talk about what is a good credit score and why I want one. Because basically it's an accounting or a summation of your credit worthiness, your trustworthiness, and what they feel is going to be indicative of your future behavior, all summed up in 3 digits, between 300 and 850, 850 typically for most scales. And as you can see there, 300 to 579, which is probably the biggest scale, the biggest chunk is poor. You have to get to 580 when you're just deemed like, meh, which is fair, 580 to 669. 670 to 739, I don't know why they show us these numbers, but this is what it is. That's considered good credit. Nobody's really turning you down at that point, unless you have a few inquiries, because some people They don't care what your credit score is. It's just if you're asking for too much credit in too short a period of time, even though you're good to very good, you will get turned down. But other than that, no one's saying no. But when you get to very good and excellent credit, you're just getting the best of the best rates. The cost to borrow money goes way down. Sometimes it can be almost zero. You borrow 100, pay 100 and maybe 50 cents back. So you want to get into that very good to excellent range. And if you're not there, as far as purposes of this cohort, at least if you're in the good, then you're definitely good to go. We're going to break it down in another way. How do we, what makes up the credit score, the factors that go into it. So you can see there's new credit, length of history, the mixture, payment history, and amounts owed. That's 5 different categories. So 100% of the point, right? If you want the total is 4, you would think it'd be 20, 20, 25 times. No, some are weighted much more heavily than others. Payment history being the biggest piece. You absolutely have to pay on time. It is critical. It is vital that you pay on time every time. No exceptions. In school, you're 98, 99, you're still looked at as one of the best. Might be valedictorian. But here, 98% is, that's doo-doo. You got to be 100%. And things happen in life. We get it. We're all busy. That's why there's some interventions and hacks that we'll discuss in a second. But payment history is looked at heavily. So it's a clue. Your professor or whoever in school would always say, hey, these are the clues about what may be on a test. You hear me talking about it again and again. Well, payment history is it. And the only one that can come close to it is your amount owed, known as utilization. So we use a little and leave a lot. Capital One give me $1,000. I'll use a little, maybe 200, maybe 250. And definitely don't really want to go past 300. And I'll leave a lot. 700 left over, 750 left over. They like that. They see that that's responsible use. It stinks because it's like, hey, I should have access to all of it, and you do. But if you're not careful, you can get caught when the reporting time happens, when the statement is closing, and it'll look like you used it all. You bought a TV, $700-800, but you paid it all right back off. I know a lot of people in the sound of my voice have had that happen to them where they've paid it off, so you didn't owe anything. We weren't late, but your scores is dropping or they're not going up because the timing of it, and they don't operate on a month to month in terms of January 1st to January 31st. No, you have to call your individual banks or credit card merchants and find out when their reporting dates are. That way you can plan accordingly to say, I want to make sure I'm where I want to be by that time, whatever you're comfortable with. If you stay under the 300 or 250, then you'll never have to worry about it. But if you had to make a big purchase, then you definitely want to know when that marking period is going to end, so to speak. Since I'm using that analogy, and you see the notebooks with schools, since we're going back to school, knowing when the statement ends or when the reporting date is, when they're going to tell the credit bureaus, quote unquote, how much you owe is vital. I keep that record in my phone for every credit card that I have, so I know target is on the 4th of the month. So by the 30th, 31st, I want to have, I think I have like a $5,000 limit. I definitely don't want it to be, I don't want it to be high at all because that's too much, but definitely I don't want to be past 300-400 by that time frame, right? So next is that length / history. So the length of it, one of my, trade lines goes back to the 90s. So I don't know why it's not given much more weight, but it is important. 15% is still 3rd place. So if you had something from way back, you don't close it. Even if you're mad at them, we don't close it because I'm getting credit for having something open since 98, 97, or what have you. That's a lot of years. So the length of history, we don't close old things out. You may just pay it off and use a little bit at a time. Just keep it alive, keep it open. And that way it can serve you rather than hurt you. Because if you open up new things, right, going into the last 2 categories, credit mix and new credit, that's inquiries and opening new accounts. So if I open a new account, had one open since 99, that's about 24 years ago, or 25 years ago if it was 98, and I open one today, then when you average those 2 out, that's 12 and a half years. Not bad, but it just chopped it in half because I opened something new today. So we want to make sure that we're not just opening new things because your score is going to be a conglomerate or an aggregate of these things, and then they're going to average it out. So something that's 25 years old, something that's 2 days old, add those up, divide by 2. And if I do another one, then I'm going to chop it down even further. So always be mindful and be thoughtful when you're opening something new. That doesn't mean we're not going to, But in this instance with this cohort, we're definitely not thinking about doing that, a lot of that, because they're getting ready to, apply for home ownership, and they don't want to see a lot of new things anyway. So it's a good habit to have in general. The credit mix is just going back to that first screen where you saw the 4 different things there: personal loan, student loan, credit cards. If I have a little bit of this and a little bit of that, the people might think, hey, you're able to, you can handle and juggle a few things at one point. Again, it's the least, so you're not going to really get marked against you if you don't have every category touched. They understand that, but it is something, so something to be thoughtful of. And I see some stuff in the chat. You probably already handled that. Let's talk about some ways to improve it. We already talked about how important it is to pay on time. So over time, because of the length of history, being a factor, if you have something that's older and you paid every single month, right, your score is gonna go up just by default, because something that was 3 months old next month is 4 months old, and they're judging me on the age and the history. So now it's 4 months old, and I have 4 check marks on my credit report that says paid on time in June, July, August. Of course, September's not here, so you paid on time. It was 4 months right there. So paying on time, auto pay is a great hack. This is why we want to have our budget. These go hand in hand. These classes go build off of each other, because if you have your budget and everything's in front of you and you know your cash flow positive, right, then you can put things on auto pay and not be scared that you're going to be overdrawn. Because when you put it on auto pay, you don't have to worry about remembering. The little robot remembers for you. So reminders as well. Before there was auto pay, I would put things in my phone to give me a reminder to make a payment. And then you may have to set up payment plans. Sometimes that'll help you out as well. Definitely keeping the balances low, right? Like we just mentioned, like I just talked about, if I got $1,000, I think I only want to use 200, 250. I said that on purpose because if I mess up a little bit, it'll get me to the 300, which is 30% of my limit, which is typically the rule of thumb. But really and truly, for those that are in the know, you would want to be under 10%. It's kind of hard to do, doggone near impossible, unless you have a high limit credit card. So, we're not here to make this difficult and be a chore or laborious, but that's just the rules. And we have to learn the rules and play by them until you get the keys to that home. You do want to keep the old cards, as I mentioned, because let it age like fine wine, like it says there, because it will serve you. It will help you out. Usually those already have higher limits because over time they kept increasing you. And when it's time to try for a new card or something along those lines, a lot of times they'll look and see like, oh, okay, well, someone's already trusting her with 15,000. We can give her 12. You might give her 20. So you want to keep those old ones, because if not, the age goes down. Like I said, imagine cutting off that 25-year-old card, if it was a card, and you only have the 2-month-old and the 1-day-old. So now it's like, ooh, you just dropped your thing, your average from 12 to 4 to now only 2 months. If you get what I'm saying, when they add it up and give you that average. Card inquiries, again, they generally last 2 years. And even then, even before they drop off your report, they don't have as much of an impact after, a handful of months. So you have to, for certain things, you're going to get a hard inquiry. Rule of thumb is to ask, if someone's trying to check your credit worthiness on something, is this going to be a hard pull? That's some of the vernacular that you'll hear. Hard inquiry, meaning we're checking the credit and it's going to be notated on your credit report. So some things, it's time to get the house. Yes, I think that's worth it. Credit cards as well. Sometimes when they're just pre-approving you, right, pre-qualifying you, they won't. They're just, doing a soft pull, just like peeking behind the curtain, so to speak. And you can get hard inquiries removed as well. But like I said, even though it's on the report for 2 years, if you think of it like we're warming our hands on a flame when we're near it, it has its biggest impact. But if I take a few steps back, you don't feel it. It's still there, but you don't really feel it as much. And then we take a few steps back, then that flame is not even warming you up anymore. It's the same thing. The further we get away from that hard inquiry, 5, 6, 7 months, you can still have a 700 score and have, a handful of inquiries on there, because it drops you a couple of points and you start getting those back as time goes on. Checking your credit report is important. A lot of times people don't know that they're the victim of identity theft or something along those lines, whether it's an error of commission or omission, something someone did or didn't do. You won't know till later on, until people, get ready to apply for a student loan or vehicle, or in this case, a home. And then you're wondering what's going on. Something you should be checking at least annually. And the website to do so is in the name here down the bottom, annual creditreport.com. Do not be fooled if there's anyone that's trying to have you pay to see those reports. You know, they're not illegal, but it's not necessary because you have the right to see from the three repositories. I don't really like to call them bureaus, but the three places that hold your information that are most popular: Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. You can check once a year by going here. Some people do one in January, another one in spring, and one around this time of year, and spread it out that way. When COVID was at its peak, we were letting you do it much more frequently. That's probably already subsided, but I'm not sure yet. And you definitely want to keep record of that and have that handy. That way you can do what we're about to do for classwork. And another way to make sure your scores go up is secured cards. Ask your bank or your credit union if they offer that. If you can get on one of those, it's going to take a while, slow moving, but it does go up. And one thing that I didn't list here, because it's not something everybody can do in terms of trying to get your scores to improve, is being added to someone's credit card or trade line if you know that they're good about, if you're sure that you're comfortable that they're good about paying their bills on time, as well as keeping low balances. Because just those two pieces alone is 65% of your score. So again, wealthy folks have been doing that for years. Hey, I'm joining my dad's card. Friend, you don't have to be related to the person. You know, there are people who pay to be on people's cards to do that. That's how important it is to some people because, as you'll see, it really does impact just you being from the good range or fair to a good credit score. It's worth it to some people to do that. But again, it's not an industry that's well regulated. It's not something that you can prevent. If you're riding in my car and you're in the back seat and I decide to take this car off the cliff, we all going swimming, so that's the
Your
analogy.
analogies, oh my gosh.
I just want y'all to know this is serious, Denisha. Like, you have to know, because if I jump on your credit card and you don't pay next month, I don't know that. I'll know it when it's too late, when my score goes down. So I have to really trust, whether it's boyfriend, girlfriend, same, I don't care. Same family members, it doesn't matter. You don't know. They might not be doing it on purpose. I'm sure they're not trying to sabotage themselves to spite you, but people get laid off, people get downsized, things are going up, things are happening. So again, it's not to scare you off, because it's helped me out tremendously, and I've helped family members out by doing it as well. But just got to be sure.
Yes, I will say with that, because I have added my godson and someone else to it. And I will say you have to trust the person that you're going to ask if you want to be an authorized user on their account, to make sure that they are responsible, that they are not maxing out their credit card, they're staying below that 30% limit, because you don't want their bad history, right? If it's $1,000 card and they're at $900 every month, that's actually going to hurt you. So you don't want that. You want their card, their best card, the one that has the best results for them. They're not using it that much. That's ideally what you want to be on. And they should not, if you have poor credit, it might be, for some of you, you're not very good with managing your money. So to protect them, you don't get the card. When they order the card, they keep the card. So what I did was, I will get the card for the person and I will use it to charge gas or go to the store and get gum or a bottle of water, and I pay it off every month so that they have activity, but it's being paid on time and it's staying well below the limit every month, so that it helps to build their credit. So this is something that you want to make sure you're choosing someone that you trust, and then you're reassuring them, because for my godson, he's like, can I get the card? I'm like, absolutely not. You have bad credit. Why? Because you miss payments. I will not let you ruin my credit. So let them know that you don't want the card. You just want them to use it to pay for gas or something low and just pay it off every month.
It's important. And sometimes it starts squabbles, and it's just a slight sidebar. But this is what happens when that's your history. It's shown. That doesn't mean it's to condemn. It just means this is what you've shown so far. So I can't give you that card in good faith, because I'm trying to help you out as well as maintain my thing as well. I can't have you knock me off, because there's no judgment, but you might be going through something where you haven't matured enough or been at a secure place where you can handle that. So no one has touched my card. My daughter doesn't even have the card, and I've added her to. I may give it to her on a per case basis, like, hey, you going to the mall? Go ahead, But other than that, I needs that, because I want to make sure we're all good. Because if I'm no good, then I can't help you, and I can't help anybody else. So I'm not going to allow that. Because if your credit was good, then you could go to the bank and get one. So why would an entity that has trillions of dollars or at least billions doesn't want, they have a vetting system and they're not going to allow you to do it? Why should I? And that's why people get into fights and there's all these issues. And next, all your business is online. So how about no? And I'm going to help you out. Your score's going to go up. And then when you get your card, do what you want with it. Get this out of my way again. Just some stats. 7 out of 10 low scores are attributed to high utilization. To Denisha's point, some people like really pay their things every month. They're just not doing it at the right time. So in that example, the 4th of the month is when it matters for my Target card. And so if I were to pay, if I use the 5,000, I have access to that money. So I can use the 5,000 with no issue, right? I might want to buy 8 TVs because I'm going to use it to raffle off for this big thing. Great. You can do that. They're not going to report that on the 18th. They're not reporting on the 23rd. So you'll never, the repositories, Equifax, TransUnion, Experian will never know that I did that, or they won't hold it against me that I maxed it out because it's not the reporting date yet. You want to play fast and loose like that, you just got to make sure you have enough money to cover that bad boy by I wouldn't even say the 3rd because it could be a Saturday. Or maybe, they didn't do the data entry. I'll do it by the 31st. I have plenty of time to see that payment is gone in this. You do have access to it. I don't want to try to make it seem like you can't ever touch it, but it's a slippery slope because, a lot of people don't have 5,000 to just drop right back in. In your case, maybe it's 300, 400, 500, and that might be a lot for some people. So the rule of thumb is just stay under 20, 30%. Easier said than done in this world. I get it. Gas prices are through the roof again. California, that all-time highs given what's going on out there. So things out of our control are going to change those things. That's why we want to be at 10, 20%, because when those type of oblique moments happen, I can go ahead and put the gas in and now I'm closer to 25, 30%, as opposed to being at the 30 and having to do gas at a higher price that I couldn't control. And now you're playing in the 40s and 50s and so on. This is why we'll have these things as rules of thumb. 3 to 6 months is the timeline for legitimate credit repair. Don't let these other companies that want to charge you up, promise you that tomorrow morning you're going to have 1,000 credit score when you know that there's no such thing as 1,000 credit score. So just be wary of anyone and leery of anyone that is trying to promise you that you're going to build it up quickly. There's no magic bullets. Those things are great, those interventions that we talked about, as well as jumping on as an authorized user, but it's still, you can't do more bad things to it. You have to be doing your thing, and if you jump on there, you're getting the history and the utilization, so that's why it can seem like it's a magic carpet ride and goes up there, but even that will plateau at some point. So 3 to 6 months, you give yourself some time. This is a cohort that's going into next year, so we got time. 30 days, that's the number of, 30 is the number of days that the Bureau has to respond to certain disputes, to respond to your disputes. So we're going to get into that here in a couple minutes about responding and the timelines and what you should be doing in the interim. That's a sample credit report. Yours is going to look a little different, but just so that you can see more or less your personal information. It will have account numbers usually truncated or some X's in there or what have you, and you'll see, any derogatory remarks is really separated. And if you haven't seen a report before, we're going to get into that so that you can have experience with that as well. But how do I check my scores on a regular basis without having to worry about paying anybody? NerdWallet is huge for me. Mint is probably my favorite wallet hub as well, because I'll tell you what has changed and what I can do to improve it. And sometimes there's some things that they're trying to sell you, but not as bad as Credit Karma and Credit Sesame, which I don't rely on because those scores are not accurate at all for me. That's been my experience.
They're not. And if you're thinking of purchasing a home, if that's your goal, you want to be monitoring your FICO credit score, and they provide you with your Vantage score. So it's going to be different. You want to get as close as possible to what lenders are looking at so you can monitor it in real time. The cost-effective option is if you have a credit card, even some bank statements now, they provide your FICO credit score. So you can look at on that and see if they are doing TransUnion, Equifax, Experian. So you can keep track of it that way. And then they have some paid options that you guys have in that link. Well, the PDF that I sent you, kind of the websites that have them available as well. So you want to be monitoring your FICO score. I use Credit Karma, but I use Credit Karma because they alert me immediately if anything happens on my report. So I have it, but I don't use that for my score. I use it more to monitor my actual report.
Absolutely. I've done all of them as well because I like to know right away because we have protections as consumers and some of them are time bound. So I want to know within the 60 days or within 2 days in some instances so that I can have those protections. So yeah, they're good for that. I haven't deleted my Sesame or my Karma, but it's not my go-to. And I used to use my FICO. I don't know if it's my FICO score. My FICO, that's paid. Done that for a while because I was going towards something, so it served its purpose. Don't use that currently, not because of anything bad, but I don't need it. I'm not making any moves like you guys are right now, but that's a paid one. And then my credit union, my Navy Federal, they'll give you, they don't usually give all three. So I think they're TransUnion. So mix and match, and you'll be able to get everything that you need. So this is just a timeline or at least a layout of maintaining good credit. The foundation is the on-time payments, keeping the balances low. As we talked about, utilization is just how they judge you, your responsibility with money. And you want to check for errors. Sometimes it's a name that's similar. Sometimes it's an old address. I don't like to keep multiple addresses on there. So when we get into these letters, you can also update your address and, hey, this is my address. Please remove all others type of thing, because in order to put something on your file, they usually have to try to match up you and a mailing address. If you lived at that street years ago and they don't have that on there, hey, I don't know what to tell y'all. So I don't want to make it easier for someone to put some bad things on my credit report, whether it's legitimate or not. So
I just chime in.
mhm.
Definitely, guys, that's something that you should, it's easy, but it's worth the time. Because if you have some negative items on your report, they have to, I can't remember if it's validate or verify. There's one of the V's. They have to, I think, verify that it's actually your account. So prove that it's your negative activity on there. And part of that is they need to, mail to your address. So if they don't have your current address, that's already a strike against them in terms of verifying. And if they can't prove it within 30 days, they have to remove it by law. So you don't want to confirm your address. Anytime they say, well, okay, we're going to send you mail. Can you update your address? Like, what is the address you're at now? Say, I don't know. Whatever you have on file is what you should mail it to. So remove everything else off your credit report. If your name is spelled incorrectly, correct, like remove everything that's inaccurate. So you're going through and anything that's not accurate, remove it.
Definitely. You heard that. Oh, guess what time it is? It's classwork time. We get to work on some dispute letters. This is going to be fun. We're going to have a good time with it. And it's not even as hard as it used to be or as involved as it used to be. So when it comes to dispute letters, definitely, like I said, credit reports. So we want to have that. So we'll go to annualcreditreport.com, make sure that we have those up-to-date reports handy. We want to know how to access the credit bureaus. All the three names that you see, should have been Experian, so sorry. Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian.com. So those are easy. So take note of that because we're going to go on those sites at some point so that you can look for either what's titled dispute, depends on the site. It's either going to say dispute or dispute center, same thing. They just have a different label for it, depending on which bureau you're on, which bureau site you're on. With that, sometimes they may require that you create an account. It's just simple putting your email or what have you. And if they don't, great, but be prepared to do that. And we're going to confirm, we're going to get confirmation emails once we submit those disputes. You know how we are. Our community, we love to screenshot everything. Well, I send stuff to myself via email as well, so it's in a sent file as well as in my regular inbox. So we want to keep track of that because of the 30 days that we're talking about that Denisha mentioned. We want to monitor the progress. The bureaus are going to investigate and you'll receive the results within 30 days typically. And if you don't, then you're not mad at that because now they're outside of the mandated time frame. That gives you more leverage and more of a position of strength and authority when it's time to go to the next step. Because sometimes, when it comes to the results, the bureau may deny it. They might say, oh no, this looks good. I'm sorry, you thought it was erroneous or didn't fit or wasn't you or whatever the case may be. And if they deny your dispute, then you got it. All is not lost. You can appeal with the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. and explain what you're disputing, provide proof. This is why you want to keep copies of your records and things of that nature when you do submit your dispute. And that way, when the time comes, you can go here to this website. Of course, to make sure you have that as well. But there it is on the screen so that you can, like I said, all hope isn't lost just because they did what they felt was in their best interest. So,
Question for you, Curtis.
hmm?
Is there a difference between disputing online versus certified mail? Why would you choose one over the other?
Great question, because there was a time when people felt that I wanted to make sure that the clock started. So if I did it certified today, the clock is already ticking, and they're going to have to sign off when they receive it, so I can see that they got it. Okay, that's the official clock. It can't be they're not getting penalized for me having sent it today, but they don't get it till Thursday. But on Thursday, somebody got it because they had to sign off on it. Now we got 30 days from this Thursday, and that was the rule of thumb to say, hey, you know what? That's great. So now I got you. People now are doing it online, still serves the same purpose. There was the feeling that you didn't have as many protections in your favor if you did it digitally versus what analog or physical. Don't have to anymore. It's very frustrating for people to sit in line at the post office, let alone a few bucks that it may cost. It's the time more so. So people are doing it online, and we're teaching both. We have the letters that Denisha alluded to. This is quick so that you can make sure that you've already got it going. And then you have the letters there. So when it comes time for proof and things of that nature and account numbers, I like to have that as well. So that way, because all the stuff that people are doing for credit fixing, you can do yourself. So now you have the hard copy that we're about to provide you with, and you're going to be able to do it digitally because that's the way the world now. And they've already caught up. So I don't think there's one for me, one stronger than the other. I want to make sure I got it on both ends. I'm prepared to do so on both sides now, but electronically means I could do it now quickly.
Mm-hmm. And I'll say yes to digital, but my preference is still mailing it only because digital, we know AI is a thing. And a lot of letters sound the same, so they could screen through it on there and a human never reads it. If it's mailed, a person actually has to open it, a person actually has to receive it, and they have to report back. So in terms of a better chance of it going through, I'm in favor of mailing them. So certified mail over regular mail, because you don't know who receives it if it's regular versus if it's certified, someone has to actually sign for it. I don't care if it's the janitor, I don't care if it's the secretary,
Right.
someone in that building had to sign for it, which means you received it. So you want to make sure that everything is right. So you document, we have the chart in the handout I gave you guys. The day you certify, you send it certified mail, you keep that receipt, you document the date, we do the math, what's 30 days after that, so that they have to respond to you within that time frame. Mr. Anthony, your hand is raised.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I received the dispute letters, but when I look up or see this people talking about the dispute letters, they talk about sending in copies of your ID and this, that, and the third. I'm like, as a person who's probably had identity theft,
Mhm.
that, where I'm not I is that something you have to do?
It's something you have to take into consideration. You went right into my next step, Anthony. Good evening, because when to Denisha's original question, it's no perfect. If it was a perfect way, people would all be doing it. So the counter to her saying, "Hey, I want to do it this way," is you're going to have to, deal with that exposure, that potential exposure, because identity theft is very real. So whereas the AI is, screening certain things out over there, on this end, I don't have to worry about putting that license and social security and things of that nature. So 6 of one, half a dozen of the next. And some people are leery of that. So they'd rather do the online and deal with the chance that I don't get, I get siphoned off or what have you, because yeah, some people are just not going to do it, Anthony. They're not going to put their license or any personally identifying information, any PII in the mail like that, because, I could just take a picture of it. I don't have to be the one to do it. I could work at this, mail room tonight, sniffing through things, take a picture and sell that to somebody else so it never touches me. And this is the type of stuff that people have to deal with. So again, it's not to scare anyone off. We can get taken even at going to the restaurant when they take our credit card to the back. same person could do the same thing. So it's not to say don't ever do any business, but it's a very real threat. And it's a great point that you bring up.
Yeah, and just to add on to it, like I don't know if I'm super like um I like to do like virtual debit cards or whatever if I'm buying stuff online. But like I've noticed even going to some ATMs like the Capital One in Seaport, I feel like, entering into that area, like they're putting skimmers on those things. So I usually keep like a gift card, like a Visa
Mhm.
Master gift card that's like $1 or something left on it. And
Yep.
that's what I swipe into going to ATMs.
Yep. Absolutely. That's a great point. I always keep a few of those gift cards because when I do focus groups, a lot of them were paying me with gift cards, and I'd always keep a few bucks on it just so it's active. For any time I'm giving a free trial of something, they would always want a credit card to hold. Don't worry, we're not going to zap your card. Okay. Well, in case you do want to try, take this. So that's not even identity theft. That's just I don't want you messing with my money, and now I got a negative or overdraft because I got something on auto pay. So these are the things that we want to be aware of. I'm still going to interface with the world, but I'm doing it with my eyes wide open. Any other thoughts or questions?
I appreciated that feedback just now. Thank you. And especially just a tidbit for you guys, how he said to, use gift cards, especially when you're signing up for subscriptions and things that are going to auto renew, where you just want the trial and you don't want to be responsible, where it's like $1 for the trial and then it's $50 a month after that, but then you forget, right? So leveraging the gift cards is definitely, I think that's a gem. It's a little gold nugget for you guys to use as a strategy to make sure you're staying within budget. A huge part of credit. We went over it in the first week, and we'll be going over it again, not next week, the week after. So every first and third Mondays when we meet, we'll be talking about budgets to make sure in order to be successful with your credit, you kind of also need to be great with your budget and managing your finances. So you know where your money's going. You know when you have more money to pay down that credit card. Because if you're maxed out in terms of a utilization, we need to start putting more money towards it, right? So a key part of that is leveraging the gift cards, making sure you're managing your money. And that's what we're going to be doing and working on with you guys.
Definitely. This is important. That's what we say. Why? Because you can just imagine you're going to get access to a $500,000 piece of property, in some instances upwards of 3/4 of or more, depending on where you're going, especially if it's in Boston. And yes, you're not using it for investment yet because this is for you to live in, but that same credit and the same process can be used as you go forward and secure second and third pieces of property, and some that you may live in part of the year, some not at all, some just investment in different parts of the country, and beyond. So it is huge because I can have access like a lever and a fulcrum. I can have leverage to something greater than just my, $60,000 a year, $110,000 a year will allow normally. So to have access to something like that is something that could be a game changer for your whole family and generations to come. It's your source, the responsibility is yours. You have to know what's in it. You can't wait and say what the heck happened. So you got to be on top of it. Don't hide your head in the sand. We've got to be proactive. We make the phone calls. Denise did share with me some varying degrees of success. I think it was all successful. The fact that someone made a call. So even if they did not, get them to lower the interest rates or what have you, you made the call. I used to be scared to even pick up a call from a creditor or what have you, let alone me go call them for one. Now it's like, yeah, I'm calling. Y'all get to know me, whether I'm adding family members on my card. So I'm feeling good about that. Asking for a credit line increase to help my score go up, or asking them to decrease that interest rate. So this is, it doesn't have to be intimidating and scary. I know you guys have this when you have, great facilitators and leaders like Denise that you can get your questions answered from and get help along the way. So we are not going to just be, touchy-feely feel good. It's time to do some things. You said, does everyone have access to the letters, D?
They should, but I think if you can pull it up on your screen, because what's going to happen is when they click on them, it's probably going to ask you for permission to gain access. I'm not sure how it's going to work.
All right, let's hold on for a second.
And I'll see if I could pull it up on my end and I'll let you know, because then we could use mine. Okay, so I'll share my screen so we can use that. Here's my Zoom link. My Zoom link.
Are you signing?
Okay, so I'm going to show you guys first what the document is that I shared with you. So this is an excerpt from the handbook that you guys will be receiving. This is just the credit section. I'm redoing the videos for the self-paced part of the course, just to make it more succinct so that you guys get straight to like, these are my action items of what I need to do. So first page is that intro. The second page is your tracker. So I do want you guys to print this out. So every month you're going to track. So we're in August. What was your income for August? What was your credit score for August? What's your credit utilization? How much do you have saved? And what's your DTI? And then you can put whatever notes you have. And every month you're going to fill this form out because it's going to help you see where you're improving, where you have weaknesses, what we need to do, so that when I check in with you guys, I check in every month. So you're going to get a text message or an email or a phone call from me every month. I want to know how you're doing. And the easiest way, if you can't talk to me, is to send me a copy of this or a screenshot and text this to me so I can see how you're doing and what we need to do to improve. So here, Curtis talked about these things. This is just not a PowerPoint presentation, but you read kind of what he talked about in terms of using MyFICO, annual credit report to pull your credit, some tidbits on how to dispute. You guys have a dispute tracker, and I'll show you the printout of it, but it's the same. You have it as a digital for those of you who like to use spreadsheets. Some more information on how you can improve your credit. This is my to-do list so that you guys have a checklist when you're looking over your credit report, all three of them. What you need to do step by step so that you can address whatever issues and you have a system, okay? So you're going to follow this list 1 through 8. We have the dispute letters here for you. So when we click on it, you guys will start to see all of the letters popping up on the screen. And then this is a printout of what the spreadsheet looks like. So that you document what the account is, what the dispute status is. And I put down here so that you guys know kind of how to label it so it's easy for you. The date you sent it, what's the response deadline? So add 30 days to whatever you have there so you know. And all of your tracking information. I would recommend you get a folder or an envelope so that all of your receipts, if you're doing certified mail, you have all of those receipts as well. So you can save them and check on anything that you need for documentation. Okay, so this is a document I put in the chat for you guys. You're also going to get it as an email in addition to a copy of today's presentation. So I want you guys to implement. I don't like when people come and sit and learn and do nothing. So I expect to see lots of people doing homework from this because it took a lot of time to put it together, okay? Let me change what I'm sharing. Share desktop. Okay, so now you can see the whole thing. So the dispute tracker, let me know if you guys see it. You should see it. Yes? No? Maybe so. Do you see it, Curtis? Or anyone?
I sure do. I want other people to speak up too, though. What are we doing?
Guys.
Come on.
Okay, so this is the digital. So you can, and I put it into sections for you so that if you want to dispute your personal, so like your name's incorrect. So on mine, I'm actually doing my disputes now because my name is all sorts of, they have different things. And I learned this summer that my middle name is hyphenated, and all my life I have not hyphenated my middle name when I went to update my passport. So, you know, you learn things about yourself. So I have to update a lot of personal information. Inquiries, late payments, collection. So these are kind of the issues you're going to fall into when you're sending your disputes. So I gave you trackers for that. And then now we'll go to dispute letters. We'll scroll down. So which letter do you want me to go to, Curtis, or are we just going through all of them?
Let's do it. Start from the top.
Start from the top, the tippy top. Okay, go ahead, sir.
All right, so hopefully everybody can see that. And so you're giving it to people electronically so that they print it out themselves, correct?
Correct.
All
So
right.
the instructions is you guys are going to get it just like this as a Google Doc. you're going to go here to file, make a copy. If you want to keep it as a document, your own, because you can't edit this at all. Or you can go down to download and download as a Word document.
There
When
you
you
go.
do this, now you can edit to customize it for you, because this date is going to change. Your name, address, all of this information is going to change, which you do have to put. So Anthony, I know you didn't want to put all of your information out there, but in order for them to verify you are you do need to put your social security number. And then you can delete whichever columns you don't need. So if you only have to dispute 3 items, you can highlight the rest of these. On my computer, I would right click. Nope, not right click. It's supposed to be, oh, it's because this is your document. I would right click and then it would allow me to delete all of the other columns. And then
Can you
the
read
only
that
question
line?
I had, pardon?
No, I was gonna say, and see what it says right underneath number 22? Please remove all non-account holding inquiries over 30 days old. So even the inquiries that we were talking about can be removed as well. I would not try to fight any inquiry that was for an account that you actively do have, because that's going to get you caught up. But
Yep.
anything that we're denied for, why not? That's
Yep.
why it says account holder.
Anyone in the chat, or you can unmute yourself. Why do you think disputing accounts that you were denied for will help you? Why is that a good thing to do? Because you might say, I'll just ignore it.
Takes off the inquiry. What else does it do?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the biggest ones. Like, it'll remove the inquiry, so then that way, like, it's not going to show like, hey, all right, well, you applied to like 7 different things right now.
Exactly. And your credit score, it won't be on there as a hard inquiry anymore. So you should see a bump in your credit score as well. But you can only do it for the ones you were denied, not the ones that you have active accounts for.
Yep. Someone says it'll hurt you in the long run, Herman. Yeah, I mean, this is important because there are some of the creditors, they're very I don't know, call it hoity-toity, bougie, or what have you. And so even if you have a 750 score, certain people like Citi or what have you, Barclays, you could be 800.
Chase.
Who else is it?
Chase, I think, like, if you have 3 inquiries or have 3 lines or something, they like don't want to like mess with you. Like, they don't want you to have like 3 other lines within a certain amount of time.
There you go. Have you ever heard of the 524 rule? Five items or trade lines within the last 24 months. And certain banks like Chase or Barclays are going to say, no, I don't care if you have a perfect credit score, they're not going to do it. So when you're in that space, some people have different, thresholds for amount of credit cards they can have. Make sure you get those big dogs first. And then the other ones that don't care about that, it's all in the ordering of how you do things. Make sure you take care of those, because that'll be your second or your third with Chase or Barclays. They're done. Once you got the card, it's all good. Then you can go to whoever else, American Express. But that's the sidebar. You just want to make sure that you don't have too much anyway, too many inquiries.
And a question in the chat, Curtis, is there a timeline for requesting items to be removed?
I want to hear a little bit more on that. Is it almost like in terms of statute of limitations, like if I try to remove something from years ago, so to speak?
Yep.
I'm putting in everything because there's no penalty against it. But I know that, to your question, I have never learned that there was a timeline. We know now 7 years if left unchecked or unfettered. So I'm going to say no, because I've never heard anything in my travels saying, hey, it's too late for you to dispute that. But maybe you know something I don't when it comes to that.
So I know I think 7 years things show up on your credit report. Bankruptcy is, I think chapter 13 is 10 years it stays on your credit report. If you have something negative on your report over that time, you can ask them to remove it because it's past that time frame. So
Absolutely.
that's where it helps you in terms of an actual timeline. So there's no limit on what, like when you, like if you miss the window of opportunity, you can
Right.
ask for things to be removed at any moment, at any time. But there's an actual timeline for the creditors and the credit bureaus. They can't have things on your report indefinitely.
Absolutely.
So they have to actually remove it. And then I say it's a good thing. So I have to do it. So I have homework, guys. So just like you have homework this month, I have homework because I'm trying to, although I have a good credit score, I want to practice what I preach. So I'll be improving. Last year I went and I got a new car, well, new to me car, and they pulled my credit. But again, it wasn't the auto dealership pulling it themselves. You know how they send it? So they pull it once, but they went to like 20 different banks to get you your interest rate and what your financing would be. So
Mhm.
all of those showed up on my credit report. So I have to go and remove all the ones who are not the end financing agency
Mhm.
for
You don't have any relationship with 23 of them, only the 24th. And yeah, they say that it doesn't hurt you because they understand what was happening there. You still want it gone.
I want it gone because it looks like I have a lot of inquiries and
Mhm.
I don't.
Yeah, the thirst is real. Anthony, is that a new hand raise or was it from earlier?
Yeah, it's a new one.
Okay.
To just speak on like not paying on collections and like if you did pay on a collection for a debt, the creditor may have charged it off and wrote it off for the year. But if you pay the collection, that kind of resets the clock on that 7 year. If you want to speak on that.
Yeah, I mean, you were hitting it because, um, there's some people that in their mindset, in their thought process, they won't ever pay a collections because people like you said, it's already been paid and it doesn't help your score. You want it to be where I would send a letter out on that and be like, hey, first of all, you have to prove this, this, and this. So everybody's getting that letter. But it's not going to help out. It could just show that it was paid. So maybe for some people, maybe there's some people that when it comes to getting a home, they have a higher, threshold, and they're thinking, nah, we're going to be very stringent. We want to see you pay those things off. So I'm not going to say don't pay what you owe. That's not the thing. I'm just saying is don't think that it's going to in and of itself magically move your score. Maybe that cash flow can go towards something else because I want to pay everything that I owe. If I can get some things removed, fine. But I'm of the mindset that I do want to pay my debts. But if my cash flow could be better served to this high interest credit card over here, or taking this thing over here, or helping me get this car that she just talked about there, so that I can continue to make money and do what I need to do to get the home, then I got to make that decision for me. Paying that off is not in and of itself going to raise my score. It just makes me feel good because again, the type of person I want to pay off my debts. So, Denisha, I know you're gonna have some thoughts on that.
If you owe it, you should be paying back your debts, but there are strategies if it is already in collection. Technically, you don't have to pay the current creditor because they are not the original person. Right? You owe the debt, let's say it was a medical debt, and which we have a dispute letter for that too. And they sent you to collections. And now a collections agency or a debt collector is the one who's coming after you. You don't owe them because you owe the hospital, right? So they have to validate that debt before and prove that you signed paperwork, which they don't have it because you didn't sign anything with them. So they should be removing that because they're a collection agency. They don't have any of the original contracts. If it is where they are able to prove that, or they say, no, you do have to pay this debt, then you can try to also see if you can settle, right? So paying less than what is owed. So if you know you owe $5,000, but you only have $3,000 or $2,000 or $1,000 to pay them, ask them if they're willing to accept that, right? So that you can pay less than what is owed because they didn't pay $5,000 for your debt. They probably paid $500, if even that. And then you don't want to just pay them, you want to pay them to delete. So I will pay you this money, but you need to delete this off of my account, right?
Yeah,
Or
thanks for doing
mark
that.
it
And get
paid.
it in writing.
Because if they write, yes, it was paid or settled, that hurts you, and banks will deny you for a mortgage because you didn't pay your full debt. You settled.
And think about that. If you're paying, you can satisfy the debt and have it marked as paid on your reports. That can help your credit worthiness in terms of some lenders, because they're not going to just go with a score. There's not a robot. There's still people doing this. We ain't entered that land yet. So there's a human person that's going to say, okay, you did this, you might raise your standing in terms of credit worthiness, but that paid collection can be on your report for 7 years. So again, what did we end up gaining out of that if it really cost me the opportunity to pay down this other thing here that was eating me at 29%, or that I could have done? So it's the opportunity cost. So you have to, of course it's best to make payments on time, but that's something that already happened. So therefore, I'm making the decision to manage my money wisely and allocate the reinforcements to the places that holes that I want to plug up, as opposed to something that's already, gone by the wayside, so to speak. So yeah, I do always want to eventually pay what I owe, but just know that it's not, because some people really think that when I pay this not good, it's going to act like it's never happened.
Nope.
No, they're not doing that. They're not doing that.
They don't play fair like that.
Nope.
They do not.
Dirty game. The dirty game.
They do
Great
not.
question.
That was a great question. Yes. So here is a dispute letter for collections. Again, they have rules that they have to follow and timelines that they must adhere to and documentation that they must provide. So if they cannot, then they have to remove those items from your credit report. And some of them, if they see that you're writing the letters, they're like, oh, this is not going to be easy. They don't even want to go through the hassle, because they have hundreds of thousands of people they're trying to collect debt on. That's how they make money. So they might just write you off even before you pay it, or you try to settle, because they're like, I don't want to deal with you. You're going to be a headache.
So y'all caught that. She said writing. So the machine, if it's like how we see it here, then yes, certain scanners and things like that can just go ahead and file that through. So if we're going to do this, there's levels to this. Some people will actually take the information here and handwrite it, not just your signature is handwritten, but the actual letter. So that means, again, now you have to really go ahead and I'd rather, for me, if I know that I'm going to make more money, my time is the most precious asset. So let me let Denisha win. Let me go ahead and just get this out of here. Yeah, she's winning this case as far as the dispute goes, because I got 5,500 others that are not going to win because they didn't do what they needed to do. So it's not advantageous to them in terms of the time spent to even try to see if this is good or not. I'd rather just let that go. So that's a hack people would do, is say, I'll write this. Now, if we aren't going to write, the penmanship is kind of scraggly. They don't want to do it. So it's up to you. Definitely doing the letter, but if you want to go that next step and write this out, I think your chances go up even more.
Amen. Amen. Let me see. What other letter do you want to go over, Curtis?
You want to see, that's the thing about this too. Notice that there's several types, because if you want to, since you just clicked on the first one, maybe we can juxtapose the wording. Like, wait, what are you going to say the second time? Hey, I'm really, really upset. No, there's something in there that says, I already did number one, the first step, according to, statute XYZ. Now, because I'm not going to send that till 30 days is expired. Why would I want to alert you and help you out to let you know that, you didn't do what you're supposed to do? I'm not sending this second one until. So let's look at what the second one says and how that may differ from the first.
So here it's a lot of legal jargonese. So it's citing the law for them.
And you're claiming that they didn't meet their requirement.
Yep. And
you
then,
sorry. No, I'm saying you just want to keep a record. So you're basically saying, I see you on your nonsense and I'm calling you out on it. And the legal jargon, I'm using this to buttress and support my statement. I did my piece. You did not. You just wrote some stuff back, hoping that I would go away. That stuff is fluff. It's not good enough based on here. And now I'm telling you that. Go ahead, Denisha.
No, yeah. And then just as you read through, you have to go through and change. And I'll go in, since these are Google Docs, we can make changes for you guys in real time and change the highlight where you have to make edits. So kind of the interest rate, the payment amount, all of these details that you guys can edit to customize it specific to you.
So they just gave this person the basic stuff. Like, you didn't answer whether it's mine or not. You're just saying this card has 17% and there's a $2,000 balance. Fine, but it's not mine. So that's what the person is saying there. You didn't even do any work. What did you do?
Correct.
And look at what's going on at the bottom there. 15 days. No, they were just showing that, I intend to go to the next level 2 weeks from now, 2 weeks in a day, in bold towards the bottom there. So you let them know you're not playing, you're ready, you're armed for war. I see you, Anthony. And so you just, ready to go to the next step. So we can look at that same bureau with the third letter. Anthony, you got something on this part?
I had a question that popped in my mind. So I was at Chase Bank recently, or a few months ago rather. And turns out, like, as they were like making another checking account for me, like they found or they asked me about a credit card that I did not have, or that wasn't me, but it was like charged off, but like over 10 years ago. What would I do like in that situation where it's like internal with like the institution, like, hey, I don't know who did this, but it wasn't
Mhm.
me, and it got
Did
charged
they
off
show
as
you?
I did.
Like,
But
who's the charge off company? The company that did the charge off.
well, when I was sitting with the banker, he's like, "Yo, this charge off company is not even around anymore. Like, this is how long the debt has, uh, been bad or away or in collections."
Would
So,
that
like, what do
Mhm.
I do in that situation?
Hold on, Denisha, one quick second. I only see, if I could share my screen, I would show you, but I
Mhm.
only see 6 names across my screen there. So, because the way I had it situated with the share screen, so if somebody else had their hand up, I didn't see it. So I don't want you thinking that we're disregarding it. So I think it's Herman that says, I guess nobody wants to hear my question. So I don't know if there was a hand raised because the way my screen was situated, it only had me, iPhone, Denisha, and Anthony, and I think Simone Lopez. So we'll continue on with this because we already started with this question, but we would
But
never intentionally.
we'll go back. I'm like with screen share, I don't see the comments. So we'll go back. But what for Anthony, so the creditor is no longer available. So wouldn't that be where he takes that up with the credit bureau?
Yeah, but I didn't catch that piece, Anthony. Is it showing on your report, or was that someone that's clicking their computer telling you this is what they see?
So it's over 10 years old, so it's not reporting on the credit bureaus anymore. I don't think I ever saw it anyways. Um but it's internal system of like Chase Bank, whereas
Mhm.
like I've never had this account. So like what and how would I like kind of address that with them, saying like, hey guys, like, so this isn't me. Like, I don't know what to do.
Right. So I'm glad you asked that. So I'm gonna help you work through this piece because when we're doing the dispute, if you want to pull up the screen, Denisha, to help them out, because I'm not trying to trick them. You want to go back to like the very first letter.
Oh, give me 1 second.
I'll take it to
I don't know where it went. Here it is. Okay.
All right.
This one?
Yep. So, what's some of the information that you had to have to dispute, from given on this letter here? How would you dispute something that's even current, not that old one, just something that's current?
Say it's something that I like.
Yeah, what
Oh,
information? What information are they asking for on the screen here?
name of the account number,
Yeah.
provide verification. I don't know. Like my situation again was like most likely one of those identity theft situations
I got
where it
you.
was like the person whoever had that line had the line, like claimed lost card, got a new line,
Yeah.
and then just didn't pay.
Yeah, I left it, and it didn't impact you, because you said you didn't remember seeing it. And so what I'm saying is, if you didn't have the account number, then you can't dispute because you need an account number. Are these people willing to give it to you to help you dispute? Maybe. Sometimes they will not. So you need an account number so that you can move forward. So, this is something where I don't know if it's going to be time well spent trying to fight something that's already gone anyway. I totally get wanting to make sure that my name is clear in case somebody did have access even at that bank and want to try to hold it against you at some point and you're on a no-fly list or what have you. So I get
Mm.
that piece, but you need the account number. So unless this person is willing to help you get that, and then you can ask them, how do I dispute it? Because it's not showing up on my report. Again, you may be spending a lot of time, whether it's on hold or going to a place, a physical branch, and it may not be the best use of your time. But yeah, I mean, you're gonna at least need to be able to have that information to dispute.
Yeah, if anything, it's like my reputation within Chase, which is like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. All right, thank you.
Would be definitely important. Appreciate that. Herman, I want to go back to the original question as well as this one here. Denise, do you see the first one?
Hold on. Does the state of Massachusetts still have a statute of limitations for debt?
That was already addressed with someone else's question as well.
Yeah.
It's the one at 7 o'clock. People earn money unless you're working in the engraving and print, then you only make money. Okay, so maybe it was that a question. Feel free to come off mute if you're in a position to do so. But I thought that question was already addressed in terms of statute of limitations from the sister that asked around the same time that he did.
Yep. The best bank to open a secured card. I think Discover has a good secured card that
Yeah.
transitions into an unsecured card, so like a Visa, MasterCard, a major credit card. After I think
They'll
it's
increase
2
you,
years.
and they'll increase you as well. Because Capital One will give you one, 200-300, but I don't know if they increase as quickly. They might. I think after 6 months, they might one a smaller one, but those are the ones that I have history with. So I can't speak to other ones in terms of what they've done for my clients. I've had to use Discover. Anthony, it's definitely in Discover.
Yep.
Capital is usually easy to quick to check, so you don't have to take that credit hit, that hard hit. So I like having folks peek at that as well. Had great success with people getting their first card with Capital One, not just the secured card. But yeah, those two are the ones that I would think of.
Awesome. Okay, those are, yeah. I definitely Discover has a secured card that you can use. I think Self is a great platform as well. You have to pay though. So I prefer to use the major credit card companies because they can transition versus the like Self. It helps build your credit, but you're really paying a fee to do that as well.
Okay.
Not a bad option because it's not a lot of money, but there is a fee. So if funds are tight and you want to put it diverted to something else in terms of paying off debt, then see if you can get a Discover. And I would definitely, they have online options for applying. I'm always in favor of calling. So even if you get declined over the phone, I mean, on the internet, then call them and ask why and explain your situation. Talking to a human when you're polite, not rude, usually it works in your favor most times. Okay, so I'm thinking of homework assignments for you guys. So who was here last session? Do you remember what the homework assignment was last session? Anyone? At least one of them? No? Okay. So one thing that is, yep, do your budget. Thank you, Anthony. So one of the assignments which goes into today, so I need you guys to do it and report back. I had someone, she's not on here today, but she did it last time because I had done it. Again, I like to practice what I preach. So this is something I do every 6 months. I didn't do it during COVID because I figured they were telling everyone no, but I tried 3 weeks ago and I was able to reduce my credit card interest rate by 10%. So your first homework assignment, if you have good credit or a history of on-time payments, whatever card you have a history of on-time payments for, then I want you to call them and say, hey, I've been with you guys for X number of years. I've never missed a payment. I've always been on time. I'm a great customer. Are you able to reduce my interest rate? And see what they tell you. I did that. I was able to reduce one card by 1%, the other one 10%, which is the most I've ever gotten. So I encourage you to make the phone call. A young lady, she did the assignment. She understood and she executed, and hers was reduced 8% from that session. So I encourage you guys to make the call. It costs you time. And it probably costs you 5 minutes of time, not a lot of time, depending on hold time. But make the call If they say no to the interest rate, ask them if they're able to credit you for your payments or your interest payments and see what they're able to offer you, or if they're able to offer anything at all, right? So my mom, she does the same thing. She doesn't get the first time she did it a couple years ago, she got 0% interest for 6 months on one of her cards. Another card, she received an interest rate reduction. And then on another card, she received the interest payment as a credit. So the interest payment she did after I got my 10%, I told everyone that I knew. My dad got denied from everyone, so it didn't work for him, but it was a call, so it's okay. But my mom did the call, and she was able to receive, I think it was about $400 back as a credit to her account. So that's $400 that went towards her debt that she didn't have to come out of pocket for because she made a phone call, right? So that phone call earned her $400. So I highly, highly recommend and say this is a homework assignment you should do for all of your credit cards. Pick a day and call them and ask the question. If they say no, it costs you a phone call. Mark your calendar, 6 months from that date, call them again and ask. I call every 6 months. Okay. The second homework assignment for you guys. Any questions with that?
I don't have a question, but I do say that sometimes you can sometimes you call the bluff. Me and you had that joke about,
Yeah,
it
no.
don't
Chase
always
told
work.
me no. Chase shut me down.
Yeah. I'll be like, hey, I'm getting ready to close. Matter of fact, I don't even threaten. I'll say, how do I close my account? Because that way you don't look silly if they call your bluff. You're just asking how. And sometimes they'll say, but why? What are you thinking about? Or that type of deal.
So yes, so I called, I tried because Chase
I've
denied me.
been
And I was like, Chase, well then tell me how to close the account. And then they sure enough was gonna send me over to the department to close it. Uh-oh. Are you speaking, Curtis? You're breaking up. Or was it me? So I'll go back to the questions. I don't know if Curtis, I don't know, it was breaking up. So does that
I didn't hear the
interest,
last thing you said.
It sounds
payment
it
go?
sounds like Curtis is
Oh,
breaking up,
It's Curtis. Okay, I
Denisha.
wasn't sure if it was me. Okay. So I'll keep talking in the meantime. So I try to bluff on Chase Bank because I've had them since I was in college. So that's sad to say, almost 20 something years. And they said no to me and it hurt my feelings. I was like, well, then I want to close my account. What's the process? I thought that was going to incite them to say, hey, please give you some credit towards your payment. They were ready to send me to the department to close off my account. I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, so I left it. So again, just understand they may say no, but it's worth a call because my Bank of America gave me the 10% interest rate reduction, which is phenomenal. Right? So make the call. That young lady, she did the call. She got 8% reduced on her credit card. So please make that phone call this week. Let me go through and see any questions related to that homework assignment. The
I think
interest
you'll be.
credit. The interest payment credit, yes, it goes towards your debt. So let's say you owed $500 on your credit card and they gave you a $400 credit, then that would go towards your debt. So now you're reduced to $100. So they give you a credit to your account. You still have to make your monthly payments. So even if they gave you the credit today and your bill was due tomorrow, you still need to pay tomorrow's bill, because you don't want to have a late payment on your record, right? A credit is not a payment. They never let your credits count as payment. And then why every half year do you check? So I actually, when I call, I'm always super polite and I just start talking to if I see that they're polite also, I'll start talking to the representative on the phone. And a few years ago, one of them, they're like, call back in about 6 months. That's around when, it's good for us to like check again and update your file and see what offers are available. So I just call every 6 months from them telling me that. I haven't tried more frequently. Maybe if you call every month and see if it works, but I do every 6 months. Yes, Kendra, if you don't ask, they never volunteer. Why would they want to lose money? that they never volunteer that information, right? They want you to pay. Just like one of the, for the next class, assignments for when you're paying off debt, you want to pay bi-weekly is one strategy. So if your minimum payment is $40 a month, then you want to pay $20 on the first and $20 before the due date. If it's due on the 25th, on the 24th, you pay the next balance. So it's all paid because your interest is calculated daily, right? So every time you make a payment, you're reducing the amount of interest that you're paying. So when you have a mortgage, when all of you become homeowners, you're going to have to pay your mortgage every month. What they don't tell you is if you split your payment, if your mortgage is $1,000 a month, you pay $500 on the first, $500 on the 14th. Well, not on the first, but you have to, the first one will be on the 14th of the month before, and then the second one will be on the first, so that it always is by the due date of when your mortgage is due. You are actually going to make an extra payment at the end of the year by doing that, and it doesn't cost you any extra money because there are, they go on a 26-week cycle, but there are, I think, 2 or 3 months in the year where we get paid twice, so that you can, by doing that, you are able to make an extra payment on your mortgage, and it shaves off 7 years off of your mortgage. So can you imagine?
Denisha,
Yes, sir.
sorry to interrupt, and I wanted you to check the chat because someone is not quite following and not tracking.
Okay.
So I want you to share more about that. It's important that you understand it, Herman. It's to the good. Trust her when she says it, but I would like you to know it as well. Sorry, T.
Okay. Okay, so Herman, that would be a separate consultation, where we'd have to probably do it one-on-one with showing you the numbers on the screen. Okay. So for your payments, it would be paying it twice a month. So my car payments, for example, I actually pay them weekly. So I split my payment so that every week they're getting money from me. It's being mailed to them because they don't allow you to pay them when you want. And I'm not going to log in every week to pay. I'm not going to remember to do that. So my bank pays my bill for me. So my bank mails them a check every week to pay my car. So my car note, I think I'm paid in advance at this point, probably 6 months, because of paying them weekly, because it's been cutting down on their payments and their interest rate. So it kind of pays ahead. So if you're trying to save money, if you're trying to build your credit, if you're trying to reduce your debt, paying bi-monthly, and we'll talk about that for our September budgeting class, so the first Monday in September, what that looks like. Paying bi-monthly will help you as well tremendously. Let me see. So that is one homework assignment, is call your credit card company. The second homework assignment was see if you can do bi-weekly payments. That might be we look at your budget first. Next, I want you guys to, the worksheet I sent you guys in the chat, I'm also going to email it. If there are any items that need to be disputed on your credit report, I want you to start attacking them, okay? Because credit is something that is slow. So you need to start now so that when you need it, it's not an issue. So all of the items that are on your report, if your name is incorrect, I give you instructions on that sheet. You're going to highlight it in yellow with your yellow highlighter, highlight everything that's wrong. Then you're going to mark off what's your fault versus what's their fault. So inaccurate information is the creditor's fault. Missed payments and going into collections, that may be you, or it may be a mistake, right? So you need to document that because how we approach it is a little bit different for each one. So your homework is to actually start addressing that so we can track it this month compared to next month. Then I want you guys, the third item is to, Anthony said it, create a budget spreadsheet. And I'll send that to you guys as well so that you're tracking how much do you owe on each credit card or each creditor. What's the limit? So if it's a $10,000 card and you owe $5,000, I want you to document that. And what's the interest rate? because we need to see if you went from 25% to 20% in interest rate, right? Because that's going to be some savings for you. So we're tracking all of those things. So I want you to actually document that because that's important for you guys, okay? And then last but not least, which was a homework assignment from last month, student loan repayment comes back into play next month. We have to start paying them back. So I need those of you who are not already on an income-based repayment plan to contact your servicer and see if you can get on an income-based repayment plan. I had a young lady again, she executed on the homework assignment from last month. Her payment was $400, like $403 a month for her student loans. She called, did the income base, she's now at 100. So she saved $300 a month by making a phone call and filling out the paperwork. That $300 can go towards paying off a debt, right? So we're trying to find ways for you to save money, but also for you to put that money towards debt, because the faster you pay off your debt, the faster you can save, right? So I want you guys to complete that assignment because we're showing that it works. She made that phone call last month and she went from $400 to $100 a month in terms of her monthly payment, okay? Let's see. Yep. So you might have to, for some of you, if you don't know who your servicer is, because I think a lot of things have been switching over to different servicers with COVID, you can wait until they mail you that first letter to help you. And then let me see. I have a contact, let me pull up the link, who works for a nonprofit, and they actually help you figure out your student loans in terms of your repayment plan, if it's best for you to use the income-based repayment plan, if you qualify for student loan forgiveness. So her nonprofit helps with that. I put the link in the chat. Feel free to register. It's free for you guys to use. Make the call and they walk you through the process of filling out the paperwork and going on the government website to see kind of where all of your, who you owe, how much you owe, what category you're in. So I put the link in the chat for you guys for student loans. Make that contact, especially for you, Anthony, how you're not sure who is your servicer. Maybe she can help you find the right website to go identify who the right company is, okay? So those are your homework items. Curtis, I don't know if you have any that you want to give them.
I do not. That's it.
So that's your homework. You got a whole month to complete that. But really, I'd like you to do it this week or next week because we meet on the first Monday to go over budgeting and saving again. So we can check in and see who's completed those assignments. I'm going to send you guys an email with a link to report back on what you did and what your results were, because that's how you are eligible to win the $100. You got to do the work.
Quick question on the replays. I know in Gumroad it's $25 or something like that. Is that access for like last week's replay or is that
Nope,
for
nope,
all?
nope. This is a different platform. So this one, for
Okay.
the home buyer sessions, this is actually paid for by the Olmsted Green Project. So you guys don't have to pay for these. It's going to be on a completely different platform that you're going to have access to for the replay.
Okay.
So they covered that fee for you guys.
All right. Thank you.
No problem.
I have a question, if you don't mind, if nobody's waiting. Hello?
Yes,
Hi.
ma'am, I'm listening. Uh-oh, hello? I can't hear you.
I thought it was my end. I didn't want to say anything.
Oh, can you hear me now? Sorry, I mute myself by accident.
Yes, we can hear you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so sorry. Here's my question. Next, this is my first time here, and next month I'll be starting my night class, which conflict with this class as well. Is there any way I can get the material and be in touch with you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. So I understand that. So I'm reshooting all of the videos. So what I'm doing is we have an online platform. So you guys will get access to that within the next week or two.
Okay.
So you can watch
Okay.
videos of what you need to do.
Okay.
In addition to after each of these sessions, I'm gonna record them and share them so you can watch the replay. And I'll also
Great.
send out the homework assignments. So you'll always know what you have to
Wonderful.
Okay, and I
Very
just want you guys
appreciated.
really just to be tracking what you're doing, because the whole thing is implementation, execution. If you don't do it, you won't get results. So I need you guys to actually do these things, because I mean, that young lady who got the $300 in savings, I love it. I'm meeting with her tomorrow to figure out where we're gonna put that $300. To say, okay, well, we just found 300. Is it going to savings or is it going towards paying off debt? So we want to make sure we're putting individualized plans together for you guys. If you have not scheduled your meeting with me yet, please do so that we can look at your specific situation and put a plan together for you so that you can buy a home within the next year or two. Or at least we'll have a realistic timeline, because for some people, it may not be within the next 2 years. It might be 5 years in order for them to pay off their debt to where we need it to be. Okay. And then last question, you guys can put the answer in the chat. What do you think is the credit score lenders need for you to be able to buy a home? There's not one right answer, just so you know. What are the credit scores that you think lenders need to see for you to be able to buy a home? I got 650, 680, 580, 640, 700 and above. Good job, guys. So you are all correct. Isn't that crazy? Right? But they all come with a caveat. So if you are 580, you are limited in terms of the loan products that you're able to use. So you're going to have most likely only FHA is going to accept you, which is a loan product. And the interest rate is going to be high, right? The lower your credit score, the higher the interest rate. So that's why we try to get your interest rate high, not interest rate, your credit score as high as we can, because the lower your credit score, the higher the interest rate. The higher your credit score, so closer you are to that 700 and above, the lower your interest rate will be. So you're going to save money over the life of the loan. If you are trying to use any of the down payment assistance programs in the state of Massachusetts, especially down payment program for Boston specifically, you need a 640 credit score if you're buying a single or a condo, and you need a 660 credit score to a 680, depending on the lender, if you're going to buy a multifamily. So these are your targets when you're looking at your FICO credit score that you need to meet. Right? I try to get everyone to a 680 so we're safe no matter what. The closer we can get to that 700 is awesome, but do you need a 700 before you start looking for a house? You do not need a 700 before you start looking for a house, okay? So the goal for everyone is a minimum of a 680 credit score. Unless there's a sweet deal that shows up beforehand where we need to jump right now, I say let's try to get to that 680 so that we're safe. We don't have to worry about, when they pull credit and it drops and now I don't qualify for anything, because I've seen that happen to someone. They were just above the credit score, and then when they got their credit pulled, they dropped below qualifying. So we want to make sure that you are good to go. If there are no more questions, have a wonderful evening, everyone. We will see you in 2 weeks. Make it a great week. Bless someone and be blessed.